have a question. What is your favorite song and how do you connect with it? Is it when you fell in love or through something really difficult? I'm your host, Tiffany Mason. Now join me as I interview others and we take a walk down memory lane with them. Let's get lost in why that music matters to them. Turn up your radio and let's explore Memories with a Beat. Hello, Podcast Land. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Memories with a Beat. And today I have with me Zach Anderson. And maybe you guys remember MC Cunningham that I had on from the Dreaded Laramie. And so this is another bandmate. Zach, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm excited to, she spoke a lot about you because you guys kind of started the friendship and then started the band. And so I got a lot more backstory about you than anybody else. So it's exciting to meet the person that we had talked about a little bit in that interview. So I'm excited to dig in and get started. If you would tell my audience a little bit about yourself, what you do, maybe hobbies, whatever you think that they would find interesting.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Zach Anderson. I've lived in Nashville now for a little over a decade.
Oh gosh.
I went to college here at Belmont University, which is where I met MC and Drew, our bass player for the Dreaded Laramie.
Yep.
Yeah, and MC and I call ourselves co-lead guitarists because we do the guitar harmony thing so much. But anyway, I went to school studying music here at Belmont, and then I've been here in Nashville ever since for the most part. Originally, I'm from Colorado, like a suburb of Denver. So I still get home as much as possible to visit my folks and see friends from back home as much as I can. But yeah, I've been doing it here in Nashville ever since.
It's got to be hard to get home because you guys are starting to get pretty popular, and so like gigs and stuff that you have going on, is it hard to get home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's less of a us popularity thing as much as it's just I think the band is more organized than I am. And so a lot of the time like the scheduling things happen and I'll be like, yeah, I mean, I don't have anything scheduled, and we say yes to it and get all this stuff going on, and then I'm like, oh wait, like this is a lot of stuff. But that's great. Like that's what you want to have, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have for sure.
Yeah.
It's a good thing to say. It's a good reason why you can't be going home, like building your career and enjoying it. I mean, it's not just that this is your career, it's that you guys really enjoy it too.
Right. And for the first time this year too, I actually got to go home because of the band. And we did this summer, we did our first ever, our longest tour yet, which was only about like 10 days or so. But compared to the little weekend runs that we've been doing over the last few years, it was a really big step for us, and it got us from Nashville out to Denver to play like this big homecoming show for my parents and relatives and some of my friends back there. And then we basically just kind of routed the whole tour around getting to Denver and then getting back. So
yeah, cool.
It was a blast. I got to see a bunch of old friends and show them artistically what I've been up to for the last few years. And there were even some adults that showed up there from my elementary school.
Cool.
So yeah, it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. You went to school for commercial guitar, is that correct?
Yes.
And how did you get started in that? So were you like in 5th grade and you got a guitar, or how did you get started playing guitar?
Oh man. So when I was 5 years old, my parents bought me a toy guitar for like my 5th birthday. I apparently looked at them and said like, how do I play this? And so they went and found the closest guitar lessons they could, which was Suzuki classical guitar.
Okay.
I played classical guitar until I got to college, pretty much. Now in that, in that time, I was still a teenager and, very, very interested in the music that I was interested in. But academically, I only did classical until I got to college for it.
What does that mean exactly? So I'm sure if I'm wondering what that means, maybe some of my guests or my audiences too.
Sure.
What does it mean to have just classical training?
Yeah, it's mostly like repertoire based. So, um, I don't know how familiar people are with Suzuki. That people tend to think of that as like a violin school, but it's Shinichi Suzuki was this Japanese teacher who built his philosophy in music education around the idea that in order to be able to play a piece of music, you have to be like listening to it and be able to hear it first. So
Okay.
it's a series of books in increasing level of difficulty that have CDs that go along with them. And so you work your way piece to piece through the books, getting the progressively harder repertoire. And then you are also familiar with the pieces because you're listening to it. And I mean, I could go all into it because, like I said, this was my biggest relationship with music for most of my time growing up. But
Yeah.
it's about also a relationship between the parent and the child, and so they're like kind of your home coach.
Mm.
Anyway, that's more than you know.
So are your parents guitar players?
No, but they helped me a lot
Okay.
in I guess my mom played violin when she was younger, and they were always just very, very supportive about, taking me to lessons and helping me make sure I was like practicing when I didn't want to. And then I guess in high school was when I was like, oh, I'm serious about this, and what would happen if I really like dedicated myself to
Hmm.
music?
Yeah.
And yeah, and that was how I kind of ended up wanting to pursue that instead of other interests, I guess.
Yeah. So when did you make the switch between classical and, like you said, I mean, you guys kind of get down on the guitar now. So how did you make the switch? Or I guess, is it like riding a bike? Like if you can ride one bike, you can ride all the bikes. If you know one style of music, can you play all the styles of music? Like, do you have to use the whammy bar now? Do you have to use do you use
Yeah.
other techniques? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've had people say, like, oh, like if you have this classical background, I think people tend to think that if you have a background in something that's classical, that means that you have a very like sort of like studious background and that you have like a mathematical background and that you like really know the instrument in that way.
Like you're
Uh
Beethoven?
right, or just like, oh, I bet you can do all kinds of like crazy stuff on it. I I haven't really found that to be the case so much because um, a lot of the classical stuff that I did was mostly like memorization of repertoire and like learning these specific songs, which I guess probably translate in some ways, but like
Oh,
I
sure.
didn't even really play with a guitar pick until I got to college and was forced to. Like I went through the first few weeks at Belmont and was in my like sight reading classes and was just trying to use my fingers because that's like what I was always more comfortable with. And it finally took a teacher being like,
Yeah.
you have to use a pick in this class in order to force me to like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to use that. And so, I'm not saying that in order to play the electric guitar, you have to use a pick, but I think in order to play the type of rock music that we play, I do think that it's kind of part of the art form and part of the attack
Mhm.
and part of that. And so,
Yeah.
I had the intuition to go and do and switch into rock things when I was, like I said, when I was a teenager, a middle schooler, when I was playing Guitar Hero, when I was doing the normal like suburban teenage kid thing.
Yeah.
I didn't really have like the tools. I didn't develop the tools for it, meaning the mechanism of like using a pick and learning about guitar gear and pedal boards and like pretty much any of that stuff until I got to school for it. But I but I was, sometimes trying to figure out songs on the guitar, just like using my little nylon string classical guitar to like to try and play Weezer
That's awesome.
songs and stuff and being like, ah, like whatever.
That's what I was gonna say. So when you met MC, you guys meet and you introduce her to Weezer, and are you exploring with what that sounds like to play some Weezer? And then you guys decide to start this band, and then you're like, yeah, I can play guitar, but did you really know rock guitar yet? Or has this been a learning process throughout being in the band?
Oh man, that is that's a great question. I don't know. Last night I was like, I don't understand rock guitar. Like it's an always a I've never felt like I'm like, oh, cool. Like now I'm versed in this by any means. It's
Yeah.
like a constant process of telling yourself you don't suck and
Yes.
and t- and trying to tell yourself that you suck in order to like keep you moving forward. So I would say it has been a big kind of discovery process throughout working with MC. And I I would never compare us like actually to the Beatles because they're the
Yes.
Beatles, but I do
Yes,
think
he's
that
got the
we
Beatles shirt on, you guys.
right. I do think though that we have a little bit of that kind of dynamic that I've read about with John and Paul, with the way
Mm,
that they kind of pushed each other to try out different things. And like I do feel like every time I'm trying to come up with a new guitar part, I want it to be something that sounds like me, and it obviously will because I'm writing it, but I
right.
also do it a lot because I want it to be something that MC is going to be like, oh, that's so cool. Like I want to impress her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I think part of that discovery process that you're talking about is the thing that exists in the band and makes it kind of more of a progression being in it, is because I do want to keep making things that I think are interesting and that I think MC finds interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I like learning stuff on the guitar too. So kind of getting myself a diet of new things to learn is, I think, what keeps me feeling like, okay, I'm still like a student at this, but I'm hopefully getting better.
Well, and I think the same thing can be said for her and her voice, right? Because when you guys met, I don't think she was starting to take some lessons maybe. And so maybe the same thing for her, where you're even pushing her a little vocally, where she's like, okay, I want to do a good job. Like, I think it's great that you guys both want to do a good job and impress each other, because I think that's important. Like you said, if you're trying to impress them, you're also pushing yourself out of your boundaries a little bit or whatever to a certain extent. So do you think that you did the same thing with her and her voice?
I definitely think, I mean, that'd be cool. Like I hope so with her voice, but
Yeah.
I think I recognize it more just with like our guitar stuff, because
Okay.
a lot of the time our solos are guitar harmony. So like,
Mhm.
I'm if I think of our band as somewhat of a like relationship between me and MC and the way that we interact, then the thing that's like interesting to me is the relationship between those guitar parts and the way
Sure.
that I like kind of emulate that with solos. So when MC says, "Hey Zach, will you write a solo for this?" Like I want it to be something that MC is going to be like, "Oh, that's really cool." And that she's going to be proud to play, but that she'll also be impressed that I wrote. And so when she's coming up with guitar parts, I mean, I'm always impressed by the stuff that she writes, but I know that she also wants to like write parts that are going to be taken seriously as like cool, interesting guitar parts. And she does a great job of that. But we both have that kind of impulse with each other too, in the way that we come up with parts, since we're both playing the solos and it's about like that dynamic
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Do you think that I know that MC said that your guys's, or well, for her anyways, I know that she said she really likes to, I guess, use Weezer as a template or, some loose guidelines for you guys. Do you think that when you're writing, you're thinking that way as well? Or do you think that yours is just more creative and just because I think when we were talking, she and I may have been speaking more about lyrics. And so I know you and I are speaking more about, the guitar part. So do you think that
Hmm.
inspiration comes from that too? Because I know that that was like just your love. You just loved Weezer. So and that's where you guys originally bonded. So is that any influence for you?
Like, do I think that Weezer is an influence when I write guitar parts?
Right.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The framework that think you're talking about is like the chunky guitar chords, like for the rhythm section, and then doing singable melodic lines with guitar stuff. Yeah,
Yep.
definitely. Those kinds of things are so just integrated into who I am as a guitar player, because I think I've spent more time playing those songs and like dissecting them and trying to get them in my
Mm,
hands more than a lot of music. But I would say though that there's at least, I'm like, when I sit down to write something, I'm not thinking like, like how do I want to make this like sound more like Weezer or anything. I think
sure.
there are other bands that I also try to emulate or think about, and not so much the sound of them, but just like how do I make something that's like as interesting or as like cool or as like infectious to one,
I love
yeah,
that.
as infectious as something like some of my favorite Weezer solos, like some of my favorite Strokes parts, like some of my favorite,
Yeah.
like Arctic Monkeys stuff. And yeah, and I guess just thinking of it as more of like an exploration and, realizing that I know it's going to sound like Weezer because it's just me. Like, I don't have to like try to make it do that. I don't have to take a specific lick or anything. It's like, I get it. I too have a very similar like Rivers Cuomo energy with
Yeah.
just the way that I've like lived life too. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Podcast Land! Wouldn't it be great if you could save time by being able to reply to text, email, and social media messaging all from one place instead of switching between apps? Or better yet, the system replies for you? I didn't know it existed until I started using Follow Up Speed. I'm going to tell you a little bit more, but first, pen and paper. Go grab them. It's okay. I'll wait. Okay, now, text details to 904 560 5597. Don't worry, it'll be in the show notes. But don't you wish remembering to follow up was just a little bit easier? With Follow Up Speed, you can set an automation and forget about it. The system does the rest of the work. Before you know it, leads will be in your inbox from the system doing your following up for you. You can also earmark contacts as they enter the system with tags, making it easier to find them later, like watched webinar, or attended Zoom call, or met at chamber. Follow Up Speed can do all of that. I know it's hard to wrap your brain around, but it's this detailed system that acts like a CRM, project management, and your all-around hub for all communication, including but not limited to following up. Just text details to 904 560 5597 and see it in action for yourself. Now, back to the show.
I would love to know the backstory of how you guys are called the Dreaded Laramie.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, yeah. Are you familiar with Clickhole?
No.
Clickhole? It's like the Onion's version of BuzzFeed.
Okay.
So it's them like making fun of all of those like very clickbaity, like the surveys that were like really big that BuzzFeed got, really into back in like 2013 or whatever, that are like the surveys and then the articles that are like 14 signs your Labrador Retriever is a racist. And you're like,
Yes.
oh, I gotta click on that. Like, I gotta read about this. So this particular article from Clickhole was called "Which One of My Garbage Sons Are You?" And so it's like it's absurd and just like really, really over the top ridiculous. And one of the garbage sons that you can like test, and it's like, oh, you are the dreaded Laramie. And just like just there being something so like kind of acidic about that and stuff made us laugh, and we took the quiz a bunch of times and like make people who we met take the quiz to see who they were. And it was the kind of thing that MC, I think there was a period where she didn't believe in it and was like kind of constantly trying to change our band name, and I think now she's just kind of like been like, all right, I guess that's what it is. Which I love because I feel like the same thing happened for the Bare Naked Ladies, where it was just like a joke a little too long.
Yes. I think that you guys have such a good sense of humor, like all four of you, that it probably is just fitting that the joke lasted too long and here you are, the Dreaded Laramie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm proud of it. I like that it's a kind of weird, obscure reference. Yeah. I think it's
Yeah.
funny still.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love it. And I hope that everybody listening goes and checks it out. I hope you also go check out the Dreaded Laramie. Also, Zach, do you want to do a plug quick for your Kickstarter?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, please.
It's available now. Please. We've only raised 17 cents and we've got
Oh no.
thousands of dollars left to go. No, I'm
Can you
kidding.
tell everybody the reason why you're starting it, what it's for?
Yeah, thank you. We're trying to raise enough money to do our record with our first ever full length record with Dave Schiffman, who is somebody who has worked closely with Rick Rubin for years. He's kind of this industry legend, and he has produced some of our favorite bands, including Pup and Weezer and just a zillion other people if you look up his credits. And so we've talked with him and we're really excited about what he's going to bring to the band. And we realize that this kind of takes a leap of faith a little bit. And so, yeah, we're trying to make our first record a real statement and put the kind of attention and time and resources and talent behind it that we think is gonna make it that way. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so excited for you guys. I think it's really cool. I love cheering on somebody at the beginning of an adventure, the underdog, like how they're going to come out on top. So I love that so much. I hope that you guys listening think about that and think about, creating music and what that must be like and support these guys in their dream. They are the Dreaded Laramie. I have it in MC's episode and I will have it in Zach's episode as well, the link for the Kickstarter. But I am just so excited for you guys, and I wish you guys nothing but the biggest success that you could ever have. I really enjoyed listening to the music, and I'm excited to see what you guys put out next. So I hope everyone else can get on board with me and put some money in their account and watch them just blow our socks off. That's what I'm hoping for.
Thank you so much, Tiffany. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I mean it, absolutely. Well, that brings us to your song that you chose. So you didn't choose a Weezer song, which I was surprised.
No.
So lay into it. What song did you choose? Why? And give us the lowdown.
Man, a couple last weekend, I was in the car for like 16 hours driving to a wedding in Ohio and back. So I had a lot of time to think about this and
Yeah.
shuffled through a lot of songs that I was like, yeah, which one do we want to do? I think I picked Over and Done With by the Proclaimers for several reasons.
Okay.
One, because it's one of my all-time favorite songs. Two, it's from the band that was my favorite band before the band that was my favorite band before Weezer. So it's
Okay.
very nostalgic to me. And it has just like the older I've gotten, continued to have a lot of different a lot of different memories associated with it and new kind of meanings that I've taken with it, both lyrically and just in actual experiences, which I can go into a little
Yeah.
bit. But it's called Over and Done With by the Proclaimers. It is track 2 off of their first full length album, 1987's This Is the Story.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. So when this song comes on, what's your earliest memory of it? Where do you go first?
Oh, I'm living my best life right now. Getting to talk about the Proclaimers for once. It's no one lets me talk about the Proclaimers. So this is a big thing. So my earliest memory of it was my mom driving me to probably, I think, 4th grade. I'm
Oh
pretty sure I
gosh,
got
okay.
this record for like, it must have been like for Christmas that year. And it was a CD that I would look for in stores all the time and finally got a hold of. And so I remember her driving me to Acres Green Elementary School and listening to it in the car and just being like blown away by it. It's so like catchy and just like interesting sounding. And
Sure.
then I also remember walking around in the grocery store with my mom and me just like singing out loud to myself as like a loud, socially completely uninhibited child, singing like
Yeah.
This is the story of losing my virginity. And I was like 9 or 8 or 9 years old, and I didn't know what the word virginity meant, but I knew that it sounded like vigidity or something. Like I wasn't even
Right.
saying the correct word. I was just saying like what those syllables sounded, and my mom looked like kind of uncomfortable, and she was like,
Oh,
"All right,
yeah.
don't say that." And I was like, why? Like, and all of a sudden got very in my head where I was like, am I like, did I do something bad? Like, what have I done?
Oh.
But yeah, that it's just the word virginity that I was probably too young to be listening to it, but
Yeah, yeah, but you had it, so you
yeah,
did. Now, are you the kind of person, or I guess back in the day when this would happen, are you the kind of person when you got the CD, you pulled out the leaflet and you learned all the words? Or, yeah,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, so you had this song down pat.
yeah. I had the little booklet. I memorized all the pictures. Sometimes I would try and draw the pictures. Like I was a big fan of CD liner notes, and only had maybe like 2 or 3 bands that I really got to know on that level, like
Yeah.
flipping through it. So yeah, so it started out that way.
Now, did your mom like that song?
Yeah, I don't think she
Yeah?
expected. Yeah, she did. I don't think she expected me to ever like really run with the Proclaimers of all things.
Right.
When I was 5 years old, my parents and I took a trip for a wedding to Scotland. It was like a destination wedding for some family friends of
I
ours.
was going to ask if they were
Right. And
Scottish.
I think maybe we are somewhere deep like back or something. My dad says we are, and my mom's like,
Yeah.
no, we're not. And I'm like, I don't know what to believe. Uh, but but for me, it was being a 5 year old going to a foreign country. And then my mom, like a year or two later, was like, "Oh, this band is Scottish," and I was like, "Really?" And got very, very into these like grumpy old Scottish dudes. So it was a weird thing to like to kind of fixate on, but it was cool because like when I had to get glasses in the second grade, my mom was like, the Proclaimers have glasses, and I was like, you're right, they do, and that like helped me be okay with like getting glasses.
Oh,
And
yeah,
yeah, I don't know, it my Proclaimers love eventually like kind of morphed into Bare Naked Ladies stuff.
I can see
It
that. Yeah.
happened at a very young age, and my mom was always like pretty supportive of it.
That's so awesome. Because I have to imagine if one song was like that, some other songs must have had some sketchy stuff in them. So
Yeah,
I love that she was like, I don't know, it's going over Zach's head. I don't know.
dude, yeah,
You can listen
no.
to it.
So the first Proclaimer CD that I got was actually for it was like for Christmas when I was like 6 or 7
Yeah.
years old, and my tracks like 9 or 10 on it was called "She Arouses Me So." It's like
Awesome.
you didn't even have to listen to it to know like, oh, this is not appropriate for a child to listen to. And like they have these like kind of callous little references, like using a needle in your arm and like all kinds of like
Oh.
little things like that, where it's not like explicit music, but it deals with some things that you wouldn't want to have to explain to your young kid. So I
Yes.
mean, my mom and I laugh about that now, at how she like just kind of turned away and was like, whatever, like I guess
Yeah.
this could probably be worse.
That's awesome. Sounds like a good mom.
Yeah, and I mean that's such an only child thing too, where people are like, "Did your mom like the music?" And it's like,
Oh,
if
yeah.
I was listening to it, she was like getting down with it, because that's
Yep.
what like an
Yep.
only child thing is. I didn't have to share the aux cord. I mean, it wasn't an aux cord back then, but like I didn't have to share the aux
The
cord with
radio or the
anyone.
disc slots.
Uh-huh,
Right.
exactly.
Okay, so you fall in love with the Proclaimers. Where is the next point in life that you're like, oh yeah, I remember the Proclaimers being a part of an event, an age?
Yeah, in college, I feel like that's the first time, like end of high school, college is when you start to think about nostalgia, and you're like, oh, like who am I? What are the things in my past that have made me who I am? And like my sophomore year of college, I went to a store and was just like, I haven't heard anything from the Reclaimers since I was like a kid, and I bought one of their newer albums, and it got me
Ah.
kind of back into exploring some of those records that really influenced me. And so my roommate and like one of my current best friends, my roommate at the time, Mark, I feel like Reclaimers are a tough sell. Like if I'm like, hey, check out this band, like nobody's gonna be like, I love this. But what Mark did, and we had this one like fall tradition that we built up that we do every single year, which is we just go on this Proclaimers drive and we listen to the entirety of this album. This is the story with the windows rolled
Yes.
down, and we drive out to like the Franklin area, which is not like rural but a little more rural than the suburbs of
Downtown
Nashville.
Nashville. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we drive around and we roll down the windows, and it's got to be just the right temperature outside, and
Oh yeah.
we just like the Reclaimers are like kind of out of my vocal range, but we just go for it, and we're screaming and doing the parts, and like, you know, Mark is like doing the harmonica solo where he's like wah, 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 and it's one of my favorite traditions, and it's like so goofy. But yeah, anyway, Mark just really liked the Proclaimers with me, and that became a big cornerstone of our friendship instead of just it being like my thing.
Yeah. Is there a certain time of year that you guys have done this? Like, is it like every fall or every summer or?
Yes, I
Yeah.
skipped over that part. It's a fall thing.
Okay. Because I was feeling like crisp air was involved, but
Yep.
I wasn't positive.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Because you said the right temperature,
Yep.
and crisp air feels like the right temperature for the Proclaimers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Especially that album, you know, it's like almost the whole record is like just acoustic guitar, tambourine, and like harmonica in some parts. Like
Hmm.
it feels very folky, but it's also there's like a real punk flavor to it with how like aggressive the vocal style is, and it's got, who is it? KT Tunstall referred to it one time as the Scottish stomp, which is just like
Okay.
you're just stomping your boot in like along with it.
Oh my
She's Scottish, so
God.
she's
I too have had that experience where I've been in the car with a friend. She was up visiting and we didn't really know what to do, but we really wanted to do something just like kind of fun, kind of crazy, but like you're not hurting anybody, right? But same thing, windows down, driving through the Adirondacks of New York, and we were just screaming our 80s and 90s
yes,
just as loud as we could. It's so therapeutic, and I don't know what it is. If it's just, although she sounds way better than me. So at one point I was like, this isn't even fair. I suck, but you don't suck. We're supposed to suck together. So I like that you're like, the Proclaimers are out of my vocals, but we still do
yeah. I
it.
mean,
Mark probably appreciates that.
yeah, we both have a blast with it. We actually drive to like this one Krispy Kreme that's like down in Franklin. It's 30 minutes away, and we'll get donuts for it. And
Heck yeah.
we always are like, dude, Proclaimers Drive, like we gotta hydrate. Like it's like an athletic event or something.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I could see myself having that tradition with a friend. Are there any lyrics that when you are listening to this that you guys really like, either you sing them and then you bust up laughing, or, is there one that just you sing extra loud, or you know what I'm saying? Like, which one gets you?
Oh man. So I'll say it's after the third verse. Like, this is the story of watching a man dying. The subject's unpopular, but I don't feel like lying. When I think of it now, I acted like a sinner. I just washed my hands and I went for my dinner. I think when I look at the lyrics, they just repeat, he just washed his hands and went for his dinner or something. But in the actual song, it is so thick Scottish. It is completely unintelligible, and it just
Yes.
sounds like, how much you want to, yeah, woo! Like it's just like this. I don't know what their mouths are doing, but it is not. It is not. He just washed his hands and went for his dinner again, because I just heard him say that, and it was perfectly elocuted. It's
Yes.
just like the two of them like kind of mumbling, talking over each other, and then it ends with that little woo.
I felt like it was like these two meatheads kind of. Well, okay, so I never know what someone's going to come with for their story, right? So I'm always trying to
Sure.
guess where somebody's coming. And I'm like, surely we are not talking about him losing his virginity. I was like, if we are, then, let's go for it. But I don't think that's where Zach's going with this. So I was trying to find like a deeper meaning, and I was like, okay, so he washed his hands of it. Maybe it's like, everything that's happened in the past, he washes his hands of it. Like I was trying to make it into like this big thing. So I love that you are simplifying it and you're like, no, you just love it for kind of the meatiness of it, just how, I don't know if I'd say clunky, but kind of Stone Age kind of.
Yeah.
That was kind of the
Well,
feel I got from them, probably because their accent.
yeah, and I think, you know, you got to know what they look like too, which is, their thing is like the big glasses, and they're, they're not good. I mean, they're not like attractive people. Like they just look like these kind of geeky Scottish guys. I guess, if I had to like draw the meaning from it, and the reason why I think that this is something that resonates with me, is I like that, like the whole point of the song is that they've, invested a lot of meaning into these sort of big life moments, these like firsts, and
Yeah.
these things that are supposed to be really profound, but that they end up feeling like kind of unfulfilled by, and just kind of shrugging off and moving on with. And I think that there's something kind of sad about that, that it's like, oh,
Hmm.
the big like heavy romanticism that you're expecting, like real life never really pays that off,
Yeah.
is like, like that's a kind of sad thing about it, but it also takes some of the pressure off. And so when I sing this song, and when I think about it, it is like kind of a reminder to me to like not, it makes me feel seen for all of the times where I've supposed to have been just completely overwhelmed by emotion or something, and have ended up being like, oh, well, that's just like something that happened, like let's move on. Which is funny because like I I think that there's like a contrast in the juxtaposition of everything that I've just told you, which is how this song has been like with me through this big, heavy, nostalgic, sentimental journey for me, of like all these different points in my life. And yet, like, the whole song is about like not living in the past, and not being defined by like the big things that have come, but just like kind of being able to like sort of move on with it, because it's like that's life, it's
Yeah.
over and done
Yeah.
with. You move on, you know.
Yeah. Well, I think the song itself is like almost the definition of nostalgia, unfortunately or fortunately. You were saying the song is talking about not being nostalgic, but you find it ironic that you're being nostalgic. Although this song to you is almost like the definition of nostalgic, because it was what you listened to when you were this age and what you listened to when you're that age and, growing up. So it's like almost, it's like not even fair, or it's not even, you can't compare it almost, like it just is nostalgic to you. Not that you're trying to be nostalgic there. I think that's what it is.
Right. And maybe a better way for me to have said it is not that this song is like anti-nostalgic or something, but it's just that it's more so like saying like, oh, the big things that you're going to do in life, like the big moments, are not really what you remember so much. It's like kind
Mm.
of the, maybe more so the little things, right? Like for me,
Hmm.
it's not the first time I picked up a guitar, like my hair didn't like stand up like Harry Potter getting
Yeah.
his wand or anything. Like that is a forgettable. It didn't make the impression that some people say that it's going to, but
Yeah.
the memories of, like driving around in a car with your friend, or being in the grocery
Right.
store with your mom or something, like those little things have more of an impact on you than you ever think that they're going to.
Hmm.
And so, not to put too much stock into the things that are like supposed to be the big things in life.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. I think that's a good place to end the interview too, unless you have anything else to offer. I mean, that's such a good final thought, is, not to worry about these big events, but more just be present so you get to have the small events, which we're offered a lot of those every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yep. Is there anything more you wanted to say about this song?
um well, I'll just say that I love that the intro is just kind of plopping along. And with the way that it's like mixed, or I guess maybe just the way that they like played it or something, when the first verse comes in, it just kind of like explodes. And
Like they didn't fade in very well.
yeah, like once the voices actually come in, it goes from it being like kind of humming under your breath to just like
Yeah.
screaming at you. Uh,
That's true.
and that makes a big impact with me. And I think I just wanted to also say that Craig and Charlie Reed are the twins that make up the Proclaimers, and
Okay.
Craig's voice is like a little bit thicker, a little more smooth. Even though he's yelling, it's nowhere near as like crunchy and gravelly as Charlie's voice. And I just love the way that the two of them like work together in the song. Like I've tried to like write out the music notation of like what the notes are that they're singing and stuff. And it's,
Yeah.
I just love the way that the sonic qualities of those two in harmony like work together when they're like moving around,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, because you wouldn't expect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, Zachary, it has been a pleasure meeting you. And I thank you so much too, Zach, for taking time out of your day. I know that we were kind of, time zones got the better of us. So I'm glad that we were able to connect and
Yeah.
make everything happen and get to talk. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been awesome getting to hang with you. Thanks.
Yeah, of course, no problem at all. Podcast land, I hope that you enjoyed this song with Zach and his memories to this beat.
Well, that was fun, wasn't it? You never know what rabbit holes we'll get to go down and explore. Were you reminded of anything? Or anyone? Share what it was with me in a review. Honestly, the reviews don't do me any favors other than knowing people like you are listening to this podcast. Insert cheesy wink. However, the ratings do help, so leave me 5 stars. You know you wanna. This podcast was produced by Virtual You, supporting you in all things podcasting. To connect or check me out on social media, I mean, I know you're just gonna stalk me. But see the show notes, as always, for details. Can't wait to dive into my next guest's memories with a beat. Hit subscribe now. You don't want to miss the next episode.